For those of you who are new to Zetetic Warrior tonight, perfect. That's why I do these types of shows. One of the many reasons. Introduce the community and highlight people that I know are really intelligent people and have a lot to bring to the table. And I don't think he's failed at all on that. You're gonna have to call who, Nathan? What are we talking about? I forgot what I said. Um,
You
yeah, so I'm just telling people right now, you don't really have a following yet on your channel, but we're gonna try and get a lot of people because I think this interview's been great, man. I think you've really hitting it out of the park so far. This is awesome. So let's continue it.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, man. I dude,
Dude,
and
let's
and
let's
and
dude, let's
but
take the governor off, dude. Let's go for it, dude. Let's Brian, let's go for it, dude. Let's go there, dude. Let's fucking do it, dude.
yeah, man. So while we're still talking about the Mandela effect, let's get into what you think is the cause, where you think it's headed, all those different, what you think this reality is, and what you think happens when we die, or wherever, let's talk about the big picture of this reality, why you think things are changing, how long you think it's been going on, what you don't think it is. Like, now that we've laid out your biggest Mandela effects, let's talk about the better part of the conversation.
Okay. So, I'll put it like this, dude. I was alluding to this a bit before in terms of my conception of reality right now. And I see reality as an overarching, singular, unitary consciousness, right? And that the physical reality that we perceive is an aspect of that overarching consciousness, whatever that means, okay? When I look at reality, I look at my conception of it is in with frequency and vibration, all right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll give a simple example of how frequency works and periodic sinusoidal oscillation, all right? Whether you're talking about mechanical energy or electrical energy, it's the same thing. It's frequency. Anyway, when you look at, I'll give a simple example of a guitar string, okay? When you pluck a guitar string, we perceive a certain pitch. All that pitch is a psychological correlate or perception to an acoustic signal. Let's say you pluck a guitar and you hear the note C, right? Or a piano, you hit the piano key and it hits the string and it's middle C, which is like C3 or something, or C4, whatever middle C is. I think it's C3, I don't know. Here's my point. That note has a particular frequency. I'll give an example. When you tune a piano, and I'm going somewhere with this. When you tune a piano, the universal tuning note is A below middle C, all right? So there's middle C is a particular note in the piano, one note called middle C. If you go down to the A that's right below it, just a few notes down, that's A below middle C. That's the universal tuning note, which now is 440 hertz. It used to be 443. I'm sure a lot of people here know that, and they changed it. When they changed the universal tuning, they changed music in the entire world because the universal tuning, if you're, say you have an orchestra and the guy's got to come in, he's got to tune all the fucking instruments, dude. He's got to tune. If there's a piano, he's got to tune it. If there's a harp, he has to tune it. If there's a trumpet or trombone, you have to tune it. You just tune it differently by sliding the tubes and shit. All of it has to be tuned. The flutes, the violins, everything. They all have to be tuned. They all get tuned by this one frequency, which is A below middle C, which is now 440 hertz. Anyway, I got off on a bit of a tangent there, but my point is when you hit this A below middle C, it has a frequency of 440 hertz. That's why I said that. So we know that that's the frequency. And all that means it's vibrating 440 times per second. All right. That's what a hertz is. So it means there's this 440 full cycles or oscillations in that second. So A below middle C is 440. Here's my point. When you pluck that note, 440 is the base fundamental frequency, and that's what you perceive. But that's not the only energy there. When you pluck that note, it not only is oscillating at 440 hertz, but it's also oscillating at consecutive octaves all the way up. So in between, it's actually vibrating. There's all these other vibrations taking place, and that's what's called a spectrum or sound spectrum or an acoustic spectrum. So not only present in that sound is the fundamental frequency of the 440, but all the successive harmonics all the way up. It's doubling. A harmonic is a doubling, all right? So you have 440, 880, double that, double, double, double. Okay? All the way up. So here's my point. When you pluck that note, you perceive one sound. You perceive the fundamental, but in reality, that acoustic signal, that acoustic energy has an entire spectrum of frequencies within it. You're just not perceiving it. I'm using this to demonstrate my conception of reality, is that we may be perceiving a certain frequency, probably low on the spectrum, yet there's all these multiple harmonic frequencies all the way up to higher frequencies that we're just not perceiving, all right? I look at reality as that we may be perceiving this physical world in a certain way, but in no way is this physical world the definition of our full reality.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it, dude. All right. So when I look at this world, I see frequency.
So let's say there's a something that's Mandela affected and changed, is that because the one version's in one frequency that's under this spectrum, and one's in another frequency under the spectrum, and if it changes a third
Yes,
way,
that is my conception.
Like let's use the thinker for example, right? Many incremental changes, right? So each one is one different frequency within that spectrum. Is that kind of where it's residing?
Yes, it's exactly what I'm trying to say. I'll take it even further. When you look at how you can manipulate, so when you pluck that string, that 440 hertz A note, again, you perceive the fundamental. But if you then subject that acoustic signal to a resonating environment, a resonant environment, using resonance, you can shape that spectrum using what's called Formant frequencies. And you could see all this using what's called a Fourier analysis, which is the way you break out sound across it. Take a spectrographic analysis of sound. But you can use acoustic resonance, and that's actually how our vocal, that's actually how speech works and vocalizations work, right? Because you have a fundamental frequency with your voice box, but your vocal tract acts as a resonating unit. That resonating unit can highlight and enhance and increase the acoustic energy of those higher harmonic frequencies to bring those out. And that's why vowels sound different, because it's all vibrating vocal folds at relatively the same frequency, depending on your inflection. But yet, we're producing higher and lower pitched sounds because the resonating system is increasing the energy of particular parts of that spectrum. So getting back to relating to what you were saying, who knows what this reality is doing? So if there is a one vibrating spectrum of electroacoustic energy or light or something we can't even perceive vibrating, if we're in a different state, say maybe it's dictated by the stars, right? By the astrological state, whatever's happening in the heavens may be a particular resonant environment that is enhancing certain frequencies along the spectrum. So at different times, different dimensions may be being highlighted and then perceived. And I think this time in history is one of those times, Brian. I think we're going through a time where whatever this reality is, the particular frequency that we've been operating on for quite some time,
Yeah.
maybe through the era of
But
Pisces.
yeah.
Now we're moving into a new time, new frequency, and they may bleed over. Go ahead.
But you would say that either this reality has to have a consciousness, or there has to be a creator intervening in some. Because it's not random. It's not like this frequency's running and the changes are random. Like we talked about earlier, some of these changes have a clear message. So how does that figure into this idea?
Exactly. Well, there's a couple of ways we can go with that, Brian. I'll give you my conception. One option is there is a creator being that's orchestrating this whole thing, like a conductor, maybe,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Another way to go is, well, if this is all consciousness and we are just aspects of that consciousness, then are we not co-creators in that consciousness?
Yeah.
So is it possible that our collective consciousness, for whatever reason, interacting with the overarching consciousness is having some effect on it?
Well, it could be this too, right? So check this out. We first off, we haven't realized our potential yet, and how much maybe we can control this or manipulate it or whatever. What if like the people that run this place with like the deceptions and whatnot, whatever that is, these people or beings or whatever it is that's behind all the physical deceptions, control the media, right? What if they know what you're saying, right? They know what you're saying, and it's a big part us creating this reality, and they're completely manipulating a lot of people into, manifesting what they want through the media by brainwashing them into certain things and causing some of the changes in that way. Do you think that's possible?
Yeah, I do think it's possible
Because
because
like maybe to put out a certain energy, like who will save your souls, and just like mocking the public and putting that out there and that type of vibe and pretend to pray, that maybe could be from them putting something into the media to then
so here's the thing, Brian.
manipulate the consciousness of people to have them manifest something. But I don't think that's the case with
I
all the
think
changes, because I think most are neutral or not too bad at all, or maybe things are jumbled up. But there are some that are like,
right.
whoa.
Well, we could even argue if there is meaning behind them, but let's just, for the sake of the conversation, say that there is meaning, right?
Yeah.
But it's valid. Um, what you're saying is completely possible in my conception of reality but Brian, I don't think they're doing it through like some form of technology or nothing, right, dude? I mean, when we look at the way these controllers operate systematically, when we investigate them, it comes down to occult ritualistic practices, all right? So, however, entities may be influencing the reality, my conception is it's more on those levels, a metaphysical level. I've studied their magic for years, and
So
we should talk about it a little bit, dude. But
sure,
because
yeah.
their magic, yeah.
Let's get right into that. But before we do, let me get your take on one thing that I mentioned a lot. Do you think it is possible that there's like another consciousness that observes this reality and infiltrates people like a possession at times to deny that this is happening or that they're seeing these changes? Do you think that's a possibility? And then take us right into the
I think it's a
magic.
distinct possibility. Well, I think it's a distinct possibility, and it's not just with the Mandela effect denials. It's just look at the last 2 years. So my conception of the phenomena that we see with people, Brian, is that the system does everything it can to take your consciousness away from yourself and onto it, right? The system is constantly drawing you in to engage with it in whatever way that is, all right? I think the more that you engage with the system, the more it takes it out of you, the more it gets you involved in its politics. It doesn't care what side you pick as long as you put your energy towards it. It doesn't care what your job is as long as you're using their bullshit fiat currency and playing into their system. Don't fucking care as long as you're engaged with their system. So as they get you engaged out of yourself, where you relinquish your sovereignty, your divinity, okay, your free will, you're relinquishing your power over to the sovereign, right?
Mhm.
When you do that, your consciousness is vacating yourself and leaving an empty vacuum. So that's what I think their magic trick is, Brian. They get us to consent to their system,
Oh yeah, dude.
thus by drawing our consciousness away from ourselves and leaving a space that they can fill with these dark entities, which are basically, I think, controlling these people. Brian, I don't think these people are in control of their faculties anymore.
No.
I think at times they're being completely controlled, operated, fully controlled vessels
I think so
being
too.
controlled by some overarching consciousness, dude.
I see it too, man. Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is what I've been saying, dude. I mean, I totally agree, man. I've seen it too much, and I do think that all of us are susceptible, but people like us like almost always completely fight it off. But I don't think that maybe we're totally immune to it. But because of the journey that we've taken and us standing in truth and all the things that we do, I think we know the difference. I mean, these are the people, the first people to put a mask over their face. These are the people that are susceptible to the consciousness infiltration, which is what I've been talking about, the highly indoctrinated people, you know? It's too timely.
Exactly,
Hey,
dude.
listen, it's not random and it's not just the indoctrination and so they get super triggered. There's timely things that happen that they have to be being observed and infiltrated, I think.
Brian, let me tell you how their magic works. At
Yeah, let's do it.
least my conception of it. At
Let's
least
get
my
into it.
conception of it, dude.
Let's get into it.
Okay. What I found, I think many of us probably came to the same understanding, is the underpinning of their magic is the concept of consent. Okay. So their magic works through consent. What I mean by that is, in order to be controlled and ruled by their dark magic, the individual has to basically invite it in. They have to put it on themselves because it's a violation of natural law. Otherwise, they can't, their magic can't violate natural law. It has to follow it. All things do. So only I can give up my sovereignty. You can't take it from me.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So their magic is underpinned by consent, and that's why their magic is so strong, is because you're actually doing it to yourself. But I think they overplay their hand because if you're manufacturing consent with an individual, if you're presenting them with a reality that's completely false, if you're
Exactly.
presenting them with
It's
if you're presenting them with a cosmology that's completely made up, a science that's completely made up, you're making up their entire reality, presenting with propaganda from day one before they even have true consciousness. As soon as we're born, we're hit with propaganda. Well, I beg the question, is that true consent? Am I truly consenting to your system if you've deceived me into it? And that's where I think they overplayed their hand, Brian. And that's why I think they're going to go down. And I think they know it. I think they fucked up. And that's why they're going to get it, dude. Because they overplayed their hand. Because it's not consent if you manipulate
by
somebody into it.
deception. Yeah, it's by deception.
They've not consented to that. Hmm?
Consent by deception. It's not really, that's what
It's no
they've done.
consent at all.
Yeah.
Our contract with the system was done under fraud and malfeasance. That's no contract at all. Brian, I'm going to say something here, dude. The Declaration of Independence is the largest dark spell ever to be placed on humanity as we know it. The Declaration of Independence is a spell.
Elaborate.
Okay. First, let's look at who wrote the document and who these people were. Thomas Jefferson, all right, Hamilton, all associated with the Bavarian Illuminati from its inception. This is all, who knows? This all could be bullshit, Brian. Who knows? But at least this is what I found. I'm sure a lot of us have found this. The Bavarian Illuminati was established the very same year as the Constitution was signed, 1776, by the same people who signed it, associated with one Adam Weishaupt, Weishaupt. Okay, this is Truther 101 stuff here. But here's my point. So look who made it, but look at the words of it, the iconic words that we all know. Okay. Second paragraph, right after, gives us the whole thing about, rights come from the creator and are unalienable, and amongst them are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. It goes right into the very next sentence to talk about that. First of all, the government was created. Our government was created to secure those rights, which is interesting. I think government's not a noun, it's a verb. So how could that control anything? And why would I need another entity to control my God-given rights? But anyway, my point is after that, it goes in to say that the legitimacy of the American government comes from the consent of the governed. They put it right in there.
Mm-hmm.
We have to consent to their mind control government for it to be legitimate.
Yep.
They have to put the spellcraft right in your face. That makes the spell stronger. That's why my contention is the Declaration of Independence is the biggest dark spell that was ever presented over humanity. And to some people, that's going to be the craziest thing they ever heard. This is exactly what it is, dude.
Yeah, you're right.
Because what legitimacy, what does this democracy look like, dude? People think that we lost our country somewhere along the way. We never had a country,
Yeah,
Brian.
I know. It's ridiculous.
We never had one. It was bullshit from the beginning, dude.
Of course.
Rights and liberties.
Yep.
Let me ask you something, Brian. If my rights and liberties and freedoms come from the Creator, well, why do I need you to create an organization to protect those for me? You didn't give them to me. If they come from the Creator to me, what the fuck are you there for? Why do I need a government to protect those rights?
Yeah.
So the legitimacy of a government that's based on the consent of the governed, to me, has no legitimacy at all. Brian, I put more legitimacy in a monarchy. That at least makes sense to me. You might not be right, but if you look at me and say I'm better than you, I have a better bloodline and a better pedigree and a lot more money, and my army's way bigger than yours, that makes sense to me as a form of leadership or rulers, right? So that's not a government at that point. A government, that's just your rulers. Or maybe you live in a tribe, you're a native tribe. Your ruler is your chief. There's no consent. You don't consent to who rules you. This is a world of power. This is a world of dominance. That's who rules. The consent of the government, of the governed, was bullshit from the beginning. It was a dark spell to get us to buy into their system, to give our energy over to them willingly and freely so they can use it. And now everything that they're doing to us now is justified by their magic because we consent to it by adhering to that document. And that's how the Declaration of Independence is the biggest black magic spell that was ever perpetrated on humanity as we know it. I don't care what anybody fucking says to tell me otherwise. And they could take this country and stick it up their fucking ass as far as I'm concerned. Because I'm not trying to save this country, Brian. I don't give a fuck about this country if you want to know the truth.
No, neither do I. I don't care about any country. I was saying I'd like to do a live stream and take every flag and burn them in a fire outside. I was telling Karen and did this. Serious.
Yeah, dude. Because look where we are, the consent of the governed. Where did it lead us? It lead us into ultimate control, dude. It was the biggest trick ever perpetrated. Present them with a nation where we tell them they have ultimate freedoms. And then in the end, use that very nation to institute ultimate tyranny across the whole world. So that's where I stand on that topic. But Brian, their magic is, you see,
I got a big topic for you next to it. It's going to be a good question. You're gonna like this. Keep going though.
Go ahead, hit me with it now.
No, I'm just gonna say, hey, small question for you. So, what do you think happens after we die, and where are we going?
That's an easy one. Here's what I think. I don't think we go anywhere. I think we just become aware of where we already are, just on a higher frequency. So, if that makes any sense. I don't see us just existing here. My conception of our life is more expansive than Like I don't see as us like being here, right? So a lot of people, even spiritual people, they'll have a conception that like we're in our body and then we leave. But I
Right.
don't see a difference. I just see what we perceive as our bodies and our lives here as just a like a shard, like a projection into this dimension. But I think we exist.
Well, do you think like we're
Um,
gonna have a very different experience than this, 80, 90, 100 years on this human form and this human body? Do you think our next experience is gonna be much different or much similar? Probably much different,
so
right? Do you think we're graduating? And I think this Mandela effect and us realizing this supernatural realm is a progression towards something, right? Training ground of sorts, maybe, or
well, Brian, I'm not sure we should even be here in the first place. I'm not sure we're adapted to even be here, you know?
so. Do you
Like,
do you agree
you
with
know, we
something like something Nathan says? Like we were like maybe kidnapped and brought here. Like what are you alluding to here?
yeah, I resonate strongly with that line of thought and that there may have been some deception. And I'm not making this up whole cloth, and neither's Nathan. Um, when you look at a lot of the spiritual texts of ancient cultures and things, it alludes to this. It alludes to Brian, even the Adam and Eve story, if you really look at it, alludes to it. Like, you just have to kind of peel back the layers of it. Um, in that some way we may have been coerced here in some way, tricked, trapped, um, into the flesh. The fall of man may indeed have been a fall into this reality, um, a fall from a higher energetic dimension, more of a light being. I picture the original Adam to be some being of light, really, and then the fall would be the fall into this dimension. Brian, I'm starting to think more and more that the fall, the rebellious angels, may be us. We may be the fallen ones,
Mm-hmm.
which is a hard pill to swallow. It's a hard pill to swallow, but we may be the fallen ones in some way. But um, my point is that I'm not sure that God's green earth is really God's green earth, or maybe depends who your God is. You know what I'm saying? So we can sometimes have a conception that we live in this God's green earth and things were the way they were supposed to be, and then some force came in to this reality and hijacked it or
But
took it over.
maybe things never were, and they always were this way.
Yeah. And that's what people like me and Nathan kind of resonate with is that we're not making this up. You can, you know, I mean, I don't want to get all cliche and stuff, but you could look at the Gnostic text, a lot of the apocryphal texts, the apocryphal text of the, would have been around a lot of the Israeli stuff, even the Babylonian, more modern Jewish teachings, especially Brian, when you look into Hermeticism and the alchemy that comes from it, it's possible that this whole reality construct is um, something other than um, what even some of us would think it is. But yeah, the the God's green earth that was hijacked may not be the story. And the figure presented as the God of this world, the four-letter God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He's got a lot of names. Um, this is the God that the system gives us, Brian. This is the God of the three major religions: Christianity,
So
Judaism, and
let's transition right.
Islam.
Let's transition right into that. What is your take on all this organized religions? God
Well,
rules anything.
it's the same take, kind of, just similar to what we're talking about. Is that who is this being? This is the being that the world presents as God, to the point where people are so indoctrinated, Brian. When you say God, that's the only conception they have is that God. They don't even allow for another conception of what God may be. But well, who is this God? Who is this being? Because this being is presented a particular way in the old ancient Hebrew texts, what we commonly call the Torah, the first five books. of the Old Testament attributed to Moses. We're presented with this being, but this being that's presented in those books, Brian, was presented in earlier Sumerian um, cuneiform writings that were written in clay thousands of years before. They're talking about the same beings. The Gnostics had other names for this being too. Um, my point is, if we say this is Satan's world, and this world gives us a God, well, I'll let you put the pieces together. That's how I feel about it, Brian.
Mhm.
Because I'm not sure this world is this place that we're supposed to be in that was hijacked by beings. I think we may have found ourselves in this realm
So,
that we might not really supposed to be in.
do you think we can, with if enough people realize the potential we have, and with the manifestation as we were talking about, do you think we could change it to where it's more suitable to what it needs to be, or what do you think is what do you think our goal or our hope should be if this place is what you might be speculating it is? Like, is there an
Okay.
exit? Is there an
I don't
exit?
I
Can
don't
we
have to give
change
you
it?
mine.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't have to give you mine. We're we're presented with a figure named Jesus or Yeshua,
Hmm.
whatever you want to make of that figure. And he had some things to say about exactly what you're talking about. So I'll just say what he said. Give up this world. This isn't your home. If you put your energy into this world, you're going to be binded to this world. The figure Jesus said, build your treasure in heaven, because where your treasure is, your heart will be also. So that's how to answer your question, Brian. Is it doesn't mean we can't participate in this world. We have to do certain things here, but it means don't turn yourself over to it. Don't contract with this realm. Don't engage your energy into this realm, because all you're going to do is bind yourself to this realm.
Definitely not the
You know,
the
so
the the fraudness of it, but what about like the nature of it and the beauty of it? Like, that's
I think about this often. It's so funny you bring that up. I look at it as like this. That is the beauty of this world. That is, um, that's like the thing we always go to rationalize this place, is that it's beautiful. Well, what if that beauty is just a deeper deception? These are hard. These are hard, and nobody has the answers. But the figure Jesus said to be in this world and not of it. So I see no reason why we're in this world. You can't appreciate those things. And I certainly do, man, more than anybody that I know.
hmm
So you can be in this world, but do not be of the world, you know? And I think, like I said before earlier in the show, Brian, we all make our deals. But I do think there's a judgment that happens after you die, to get back what you're saying. But here's the twist. I think you judge yourself. You judge yourself, and then you decide, you got to come back here, or do you got to move on? And I don't think that philosophy conflicts with the philosophy of the figure of Jesus, because I think he was saying the same fucking thing if you really look at it, because he said the kingdom was within. I think the judgment's on yourself, whether it's your higher self. I think when you leave, you're presented with your life. Brian, and I was talking about this the other night on a podcast, but the near-death experience is a commonality. It's a phenomenon that happens across humanity,
hmm
across time and cultures. People describe a commonality with the near-death experience. One of the main features of the near-death experience is the life review. So apparently when you die, you review your entire life. But Brian, you do it in a very particular way. You review your life from 3 different perspectives, and all kinds of people report the same thing. Your review happens from your perspective, the perspective that you saw it through your whole life. At the same time as you're seeing that, you're seeing your life through the perspective of other people who you were interacting with during those moments. So you're seeing yourself through their eyes and their thoughts. Okay. Then you're seeing it from a third disjointed objective perspective. Let's call it the perspective of God. So you yourself are privy to those three perspectives, your own, the other person's, and God's. And I think after you have that review, you judge yourself. That's what I think.
Wow. Wow. How about we take another quick little break when we come back? And I know there's a certain topic you wanted to get into that actually was pretty heavily censored for whatever reasons, and you said you have an interesting take on it, and you were there. You want to get into that when we get back?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right,
Let's do it.
perfect. So, guys, don't go anywhere. I mean, this is really, really good. We're just going to take another 5-minute break.